Cowboys can actually beat the 49ers in week 8 as long as these players do their jobs and they play well. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to get into some players to watch, but we're going to also be merging it a little bit with some keys to the game. And of course, we'll close it out with our prediction. And as always, man, be a part of the conversation. Drop in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know where you think I'm wrong, where you think I am maybe spot on if you think so of any of the points that I'm going to giving out on this show. Let's just get right into it. These are some of the players that I think will be key to determine Sunday's matchup. On Wednesday, I talked about some of the weaknesses versus weaknesses matchups, right? I talked about how the 49ers couldn't stop the run, but the Cowboys also cannot really run the ball. I talked about red zone woes for the 49ers and how the Cowboys could exploit that. But this is going to be a little bit more mixed. We're going to also talk about some of the strengths of each team. And that's where I basically will start with one of the Cowboys' biggest stars, and that is Trevon Diggs. I know Trevon has not been exactly perfect in 2024. He doesn't really have to be for this particular game, but he has to be good enough. Here's what I'm talking about. The Niners are heading into this game with no Brandon Ayuk because he is being placed on injured reserve. His season has come to an end. And the Niners might not have Deebo Samuel. The Cowboys are preparing as if he is going to play, according to head coach Mike McCarthy, but it is not a guarantee, and it is a complicated situation that Deebo Samuel is going through. I would absolutely be surprised if he ends up suiting up, and I would be even more surprised if he plays a major role on this game from a snap count perspective, because it's not easy to play after going through what Deebo Samuel is going through. Now, Jawan Jennings is also up in the air. He missed Wednesday's practice. We'll see what the injury report is for him on Thursday. But Jawan Jennings did not play against the Chiefs. And again, he is going to be questionable for this Sunday's game. And that pretty much leaves the Cowboys with very few wide receivers to really worry about versus the Niners. And it feels to me like this is going to be one of those games where you want Mike Zimmer to take the Bill Belichick type approach where you got to take away what the Niners do best. And what that would look like on Sunday, it would be focusing the efforts on defense to just stop the run and force Brock Purdy to beat you with a banged up set of pass catchers. Because even George Kittle is banged up. I think there's not really a fear from the 49ers that Kittle is not going to play on Sunday. I think he's expected to play, but even he is going to be banged up on this one. So if you are the Cowboys, seems to me like the kind of game where you're going to ask your defense to just stop the damn run, right? Load the box, get your safety in there, play single high, get the numbers advantage over there in the trenches, and trust your defenders to really play man coverage in the back end. Now, I understand that isn't particularly promising when you are not trending to getting DaRon Bland back, right? Because if you're playing man coverage, that means best case scenario, it seems like you will get Kalen Carson in there. Worst case scenario, and perhaps the likeliest one, it will be Amani once again, right? Who you have been elevating from the practice squad. And if I'm not mistaken, he will have to be signed to the 53-man roster if he's going to play. So expect that move on Saturday. That's where we're trending towards. But for now, though, I kind of look at that 49ers wide receiver room. I look at Chris Conley, and I'm not really scared by him. Ricky Pearsall, we'll see, right? It sounds like he's going to be making his debut on this game. But if it's just Deebo and or Jawan Jennings, you need Trevon Diggs to show up. If you're going to play man coverage across the board, you need Trevon to really take away whoever is his assignment. And that will open up things for the Cowboys, I believe, man. If you're forcing Brock Purdy to be one-dimensional, if you're forcing him to throw into tight windows, you are going to get opportunities. Because Brock Purdy, I think, is a pretty good QB in the NFL, but he's definitely limited, and he'll give you some opportunities to take the ball away if you're hitting him up, if you're sending those pressures, because I think the Cowboys, once again, they'll have to be aggressive from a blitzing department. So Trevon Diggs is number one on my list. But I'm going to flip to the offense now, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to mix number 2 with number 3 because in my list, I've got, and by the way, spoiler alert, I'm not adding Dak Prescott to this list because that's obvious for any Cowboys game. But give me Rico Dowdle and Cooper Beebe, and I'll open a parenthesis here, really the entire interior offensive line. Because if you're Dallas, you really want to exploit the fact that the Niners are not good against the run. Right now, they're 22nd in EPA per play allowed versus the run in early downs, and you are going to get some opportunities to run on them. I know what you're thinking. The Cowboys suck at running the football on early downs. They're only good on third down and fourth down because they can move the chains when it's short yardage. That being said, I really do think the Cowboys could realistically run the football on the 49ers. Now, we'll get into the prediction for the score and everything. This doesn't mean the Cowboys will necessarily win the game, but I just cannot get over the fact that the Cowboys did run the ball on the Pittsburgh Steelers back in week 5, and that is a pretty damn good defense versus the run, right? They've got Cam Hayward, they've got Larry Ogunjobi, they had Nick Herbig for a portion of that game, and TJ Watt. They've got a good run defense over there, and the Cowboys did pretty well versus them. And that's even after Tyler Guyton went down injured in that game, and the Cowboys had to shake things up in the trenches. I think the Cowboys could run the ball well, but I do think it starts with Rico Dowdle playing well. And that starts with you giving the rock to Rico and not Ezekiel Elliott like the Cowboys did the last time they were on the field versus the Detroit Lions, which remains one of the most baffling and flabbergasting decisions that the Cowboys have made in 2024. The fact that they saw Rico Dowdle play well, and then 1 week later, they were handing the ball off to Zeke repeatedly, maybe because he just complained about it. It seems like that cannot happen on Sunday. You got to fit Rico, who is your best running back. And this might be the week where we see Dalvin Cook be called up. I realize we're saying this on a weekly basis, and we remain wrong on a weekly basis. But this might be the week. I don't know. Maybe if you're adding Amani to the 53-man roster, and I'm guessing you're going to call up a defensive end. I'm not really sure what the second elevation is going to be. Or the first elevation, because again, man, if you're signing Amani, he's not an elevation. So this time the Cowboys might have room for calling up Dalvin Cook. We'll see how that goes, however. But Rico will not run by himself, right? Like, he is not going to be productive by himself. That's where Cooper Beebe comes into play for me. Because what we've seen from the 49ers is that their defensive tackles can be pushed around. The Cowboys have not necessarily been the most physical team out there, but in that particular game versus the Steelers, you saw Cooper Beebe and Tyler Smith be successful in those double teams. You saw Cooper Beebe climb to the second level and do so efficiently. Right now, it's not like the Niners have the most scary of lineups at linebacker, especially with Fred Warner also being somewhat banged up. But they've got Devondre Campbell. They've got some dudes over there too. But you got to be able to execute these double teams to get Rico Dowdle going, which is one of the biggest keys to the game in my view. Now, back to the defense, because at number 4, I've got linebacker Eric Kendricks. He's not confirmed to play on Sunday, but it sounds like he's headed that way. It sounds like Eric Kendricks will be back on the field on Sunday. Again, we'll know more on Friday, more specifically on Saturday, which is when the Cowboys hold their last practices of the week. But here's a thought. Jordan Mason, the Niners running back, falls well short of Christian McCaffrey in the receiving side of things. The Niners cannot really tap into their screen game, into the diverse ways of getting Christian McCaffrey the ball with Jordan Mason because they don't view him as such a good pass catcher. However, this dude can run the football. He leads the NFL in 10-plus yard attempts. He is second in the league in missed tackles forced, and you got to bring him down. This is where Eric Kendricks comes into play for me. Kendricks has had some ups and downs this season. I get it. But when he can tackle, he's pretty good because he's still pretty good at identifying what is going on. He's pretty good at, just flowing through traffic and getting to the ball carrier. But he's got to make those tackles. When he has struggled, it's been because the tackles have not been there. If the Cowboys can bring down the Niners running backs, starting with Jordan Mason, they got a chance. The Niners are still going to run, and they're going to run well. I think we got to accept that, right? The Cowboys don't have the defensive ends right now. Their linebackers have been inconsistent. Their defensive tackles are still bad. They're going to run on you. But you got to limit those explosive plays, which is similar to what we talked about versus the Lions last Sunday. What did we see? Missed tackles, and the Cowboys paid the price for it. That is going to be the case again on Sunday if you don't bring these guys down. Now, as I said, we're going to use some players as examples, but we're also going to talk about the entire game. Tackling is going to be huge in San Francisco on Sunday. And the reason why is that these 49ers, they're not your usual 49ers in the yards after catch ability either, right? Like these dudes, without Devo, without Brandon Ayuk, with a banged up version of George Kittle, they're not racking yak as they once did. And I think part of that is that they don't have the speed, they don't have the personnel. You're not seeing a lot of quick game from the 49ers right now. And that might be because defenses have caught up to it. It might be because of personnel. I think it's a mixture of all of this. But I think the Cowboys, if they tackle well, they do have a chance at limiting the explosive plays from the Niners. That starts with Eric Kendricks, but it goes for the entire defense. Now, last but not least, CeeDee Lamb is on my list. You heard Troy Aikman, and people have been putting out the evidence since Troy Aikman talked about the wide receivers running, and I quote, terrible routes and lazy routes. You look at the film, there's some of that from everybody, including CeeDee Lamb. Dan Orlovsky, I know, is controversial among Cowboys fans. He did have a pretty good segment on ESPN pointing out some routes where you gotta admit CeeDee has to do more. CeeDee talked to the media today. He talked about how, hey, Dak Prescott and I got on the same page during the bye week. We got the timing right. We're ready to go. That's basically CeeDee's message. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but CeeDee gave the impression that, hey, they feel much better going into this week 8. They got to show it to us, of course. And if they do have that timing right, man, the Cowboys offense could really start cooking. At least improve drastically from what we've seen, which is not even a good offense, right? People like to say, oh, the stats lie. The Cowboys are not that good. The Cowboys don't even have stats on their side in 2024. It has to be better, and it starts with CeeDee Lamb running better routes. It starts with CeeDee setting the tone, and it starts with these two who you paid a combined contract extensions worth $376 million. It starts with these two getting on the same page, and they better against the 49ers. There's just no other way around that. You cannot hide. So those are some of the keys to the game, the way that I see it. And I'll tell you this, man. Let me know what your score prediction is in the comments. I'll give you mine as well before we get out of here. I think it's a competitive game. I think the Cowboys are in it in the second half. I think it's not a blowout like the one that we saw last weekend versus the Lions, or actually 2 weeks ago. And it's not going to be the same blowout that we saw last year at Levi's Stadium, because I think the 49ers right now, they've got a lot going on. So I don't know if they're the kind of team that can really blow out the Cowboys in this case. But I got to see it to believe it from Dallas. I got to see them beat a Kyle Shanahan type team before I buy into it. It's not looking like Micah is playing. It's not looking like De'Aaron Bland is playing. So the Cowboys are also pretty banged up. At the end of the day, I think that the Niners do something very well. That is running the football. They're not good in the red zone, but they get to the red zone much more than the Cowboys do. 49ers, I think they're the second team with the highest with the most red zone trips, I think, in the entire NFL. I don't think. I know. Sorry. So there you go. Giving the Niners on this game. I hope I'm wrong on Sunday. I hope the Cowboys prove me wrong. But on Sunday Night Football, I think the better team will be the Niners. I think they edge out this win. I think it's going to be close. Give me something like, I'm going to say 27-23 Niners. That's going to be my scoreboard for this one. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know where I'm wrong, whether you agree with me, and we'll have a conversation over there in the comments down below. In the meantime, though, hit the like button for me. Make sure you tap into the Game Day show as well on Sunday with Skywalker Steele and Jesse Holly, and I'll see you again pretty soon. Bye-bye.